Now we will discuss about LC oscillations. We know that a capacitor stores electrical energy and an inductor stores magnetic energy. LC oscillators are the circuits that constitutes a capacitor as well as an inductor. We connect a charged capacitor to an inductor to form an LC circuit. As the charged capacitor is connected to the inductor, we obtain a closed circuit. As you can see in the diagram, we are having a charged capacitor which is initially charged and it is connected to an inductor. So at time t equal to 0, that is at the initial stage, we know that the capacitor is having an energy which is equal to UE, that is the electrical energy stored in our capacitor will be half Qm square by C, where Qm is the maximum charge of this capacitor. So the capacitor is charged to its maximum and the charge is Qm, and then the electrical energy stored in this capacitor is half Qm square by C. Whereas at time t equal to 0, there is no current passed through this inductor, and therefore the energy in the inductor, that is the magnetic energy stored in the inductor UB, is 0. So at t equal to 0, UE, that is the electrical energy in the capacitor, is half Qm square by C, whereas the energy, magnetic energy in the inductor UB is 0. Now as soon as the capacitor is connected to the inductor, the capacitor starts discharging, and during the discharging of this capacitor, charge flows from the positive plate to the negative through this inductor, that is a current flow begins. So during the discharge of the capacitor, the current flows from the positive plate of our capacitor to the inductor. Now when I current flows through this inductor, the inductor gets an energy and it stores a magnetic energy in it due to the current I. At the same time, the maximum charged capacitor reduces its charge from Qm to a value Q. Therefore, at this time when the discharging is taking place, the charge of our capacitor is reduced from Qm to Q. Therefore, now the energy stored here is half Q square by C. The energy stored in this capacitor during the time of discharging is UE is equal to half Q square by C. And due to the current I through this inductor, the energy stored in this inductor becomes UB is equal to half Li square. So this is what happens when discharging is taking place. Now when the capacitor is completely discharged, the charge in the capacitor becomes 0. Therefore, the electrical energy stored in the capacitor is 0 and maximum current is passed through the inductor at that time, and the current is Im here, and therefore the energy stored in the inductor, the magnetic energy, then becomes UB is equal to half Lim square, where Im is the maximum current. So at the time when capacitor discharges completely, the maximum energy is the magnetic energy, which is half Lim square, and the electrical energy in the capacitor is 0 at this instant. And later this maximum energy in the inductor is used to continue the current and to charge the capacitor. So once the inductor is completely charged or maximum energy is stored in the inductor, it uses its energy to charge the capacitor, but with the polarity opposite to the initial state. So now the magnetic energy of the inductor is used to charge the capacitor, but in the opposite polarity of that of the initial state. So this is how the energy is oscillating between the capacitor and the inductor. So initially the maximum energy was at the capacitor, and the discharging of the capacitor caused a magnetic field around the inductor, and a magnetic energy was stored due to the discharging of capacitor in the inductor. Once the capacitor is completely discharged, there is no energy in the capacitor, whereas maximum magnetic energy is formed in the inductor due to the maximum current Im. and later this energy is again used to charge the capacitor again, but with the polarity opposite to that of the initial state. Likewise, the energy in the system oscillates between the capacitor and the inductor, and this is how an LC oscillator functions. Now, we know that during discharging of the capacitor, the charge from maximum value Qm is reducing and the current is increasing. So, the current through the circuit can be therefore written as I is equal to minus dq by dt, where the negative sign is because as Q decreases, I is increasing. Now, in an LC circuit, we are having a capacitor across which we will be having a voltage which is given by Q by C, and across the inductor we will be having a voltage minus L di by dt, and there is no external source of voltage. Now, applying Kirchhoff's law to this circuit, we can write Q by C minus L di by dt is equal to 0. And we know that I is equal to minus dq by dt. By putting this in this expression, we can write L d square q by dt square plus q by c is equal to 0. Now, rearranging, we can write it as d square q by dt square plus q by lc is equal to 0. And if you remember, we have already discussed about the resonance condition, which is the natural frequency given by omega naught is equal to 1 by root LC. Now, taking this condition, we can rewrite this expression as d square q by dt square plus omega naught square q is equal to 0. Now, this is a second order differential equation which is similar to the equation of a simple harmonic oscillator, and the solution of this second order differential equation can be written as q is equal to qm cos omega naught t plus phi, where phi is a phase constant, and q is given by the expression q is equal to qm cos omega naught t plus phi, where phi is the phase constant. To know the value of phi, we use the initial condition, that is, we know that at initial condition time t is equal to 0 and q is at its maximum value qm. Therefore, at t equal to 0, we can write this as q is equal to qm cos phi, and to get q as qm itself, cos phi should be 1, which implies phi is 0. Therefore, at initial condition, that is at t equal to 0, q is equal to qm, which gives us the result phi is equal to 0. Therefore, we can write the expression for q as q is equal to qm cos omega naught t. So, this is the expression for charge in an LC circuit. Now, we know that current is minus dq by dt and q is qm cos omega naught t. By differentiating this charge, we can obtain current, and therefore I becomes qm omega naught sin omega naught t, and where qm omega naught can be expressed as Im. Im, the maximum value of current, is equal to qm omega naught, and now current can be written as I is equal to Im sin omega naught t, where Im is qm omega naught. So, this is the expression for current through an LC circuit. Now, if we analyze the LC circuit, we can have a comparison of a mechanical system to our LC circuit, which is an electrical system. So, now we are going to see the comparison of the mechanical system to an electrical system. The mechanical system that we consider is a spring attached to a mass, a spring with a spring constant K, and the body with mass m constitutes the mechanical system, whereas our LC circuit is the electrical system. We know that for this mechanical system, the potential energy is given by half kx square, where k is the spring constant and x is the extension of this spring. And the kinetic energy of this system is half mv square. Now, coming to our electrical system, we know that the electrical energy stored in the capacitor is given by half q square by c, whereas the magnetic energy stored in the inductor is given by half Li square. Now, on comparison of these two systems, we can see that instead of mass in the mechanical system, we are having inductance in the electrical system. Here, the kinetic energy half mv square can be compared to magnetic energy half Li square, and from which we can say that for mass m in the mechanical system, we are having inductance L in the electrical system. Now on comparing the potential energy with the electrical energy in the capacitor, half kx square and half q square by c, we can say that the force constant K is replaced by the reciprocal of capacitance 1 by C in the electrical system. Now when mechanical system we have velocity is equal to dx by dt, in electrical system we have current is equal to dq by dt. As we know that the mechanical system stores the mechanical energy and the electrical system stores the electromagnetic energy. The total energy of the mechanical system is the potential energy plus kinetic energy, which is half kx square plus half mv square, whereas the total energy of the electrical system is the electrical energy plus magnetic energy, which is given by half q square by c plus half li square. So this is the comparison study of the mechanical system to the electrical system. Now towards the end of this chapter, we are having a discussion about transformers. As we have already seen while discussing mutual inductance, the application of mutual inductance is transformers. So transformers are the devices that work based on the principle of mutual inductance. In a transformer, we are having two coils wound around a soft iron core, and we name the first coil as primary coil and the second as the secondary coil. The input voltage is provided to the primary coil and the output voltage is taken from the secondary coil. Now we assume the number of turns in the primary coil to be Np and the number of turns in the secondary coil to be Ns. And we know the principle of mutual inductance here, which is the flux produced by the primary coil creates an induced EMF in the secondary coil. As we can see, the secondary coil is in the presence of the flux produced by the primary coil, and due to that change in flux, the secondary coil also produces an EMF that is taken as the output voltage. Flux produced in the primary coil is taken as phi and an input voltage provided here is taken as Vp, and we know that the secondary coil is in the presence of this flux, and as we know, the EMF produced is given by minus n d phi by dt, and in the primary coil we will be having EP, which is given by minus np d phi by dt, whereas in the secondary coil ES will be given as minus ns d phi by dt. Now these EMFs are the input voltage and the output voltage itself. Therefore EP can be written as Vp and ES can be written as Vs. And on comparison of EP and ES, we can write Vs by Vp is equal to Ns by Np. So this is an important relation between the voltage of primary coil and secondary coil and the number of turns of primary coil and secondary coil. Now we know that the efficiency of a transformer, efficiency eta, is given by output power divided by input power, and we know power is given by voltage into current. The output power can be written as Vs into Is, where Vs is the secondary voltage and Is is the secondary current, and input power can be given as Vp into Ip, where Vp is the primary voltage and Ip is the primary current. Therefore the efficiency now can be written as Vs into Is divided by Vp into Ip. Now for an ideal transformer, the efficiency is 1 or 100%, that is eta is equal to 1, from which we can write Vs into Is is equal to Vp into Ip, and from which we get the relation Ip by Is is equal to Vs by Vp. So this is another important relation that gives the relation between the input current and output current and input voltage and output voltage. So from the relations that we have obtained by now, we can write Ip by Is is equal to Vs by Vp, which is equal to Ns by Np. So this is the relation between voltage and current that we have just obtained, and in the previous discussion we have seen the relation between voltage and number of turns. So combining all these, we can write Ip by Is is equal to Vs by Vp, which is equal to Ns by Np. And from this relation we can write output voltage Vs is given by Ns by Np into Vp, whereas output current Is is given by Np by Ns into Ip. Thus we obtain the expression for the output voltage and output current of a transformer. Now if Ns is greater than Np, the output voltage is larger than the input voltage. Therefore then the transformer behaves like a step up transformer, whereas if Ns is less than Np, then the output voltage will be less than the input voltage. Therefore this condition is the condition for step down transformer. Thus we obtain two conditions, that is, when Ns is greater than Np, the transformer behaves like a step up transformer, whereas if Ns is less than Np, the transformer behaves like a step down transformer. As we know, transformers are used to distribute the electrical energy over long distances. During this, there might occur some energy loss in the transformers. Let us see the types of energy loss. The first one is the flux leakage. The energy loss due to flux leakage occurs in the transformers when all the flux produced by the primary does not passes through the secondary, and this energy loss can be reduced by winding the primary and secondary coils one over the other, so that all the flux produced by the primary passes through the secondary, and thus we can reduce the energy loss due to flux leakage. Now the second type of energy loss is the energy loss due to the resistance of the winding, which is also known as Joule's loss. The resistance of the wire used in the transformer can produce a heat, and thus an energy loss can occur. To reduce this, we use thick wires. Now the next energy loss is due to the eddy current. The changing magnetic flux causes eddy current, and this might cause energy loss due to heating. To reduce this, we can use laminated core. Now next is the energy loss due to hysteresis. The repeated and continuous magnetization and demagnetization can cause an energy loss, which is known as the hysteresis loss. To reduce this, we can use the magnetic materials that are having low hysteresis loss. So these are the energy losses that occurs in the transformers, and from the transformers at our homes we are getting a power supply of 240 volt. So these are the discussions about the transformers.